guys, welcome back to another episode of the Vine Cupid podcast. If you're new, I'm your host, Indy Watson, and if you're not new, welcome back. Hi guys, so welcome back to another podcast episode. I wanted to talk about a couple things. I just came from Starbucks actually, and my intention was to go read my Bible at a view and journal and listen to my music, which I did do, but I have no gas, so I was and I have no money, so I was if I burn all my gas, I don't know how I'm gonna get to work. So I just sat, parked my car, listened to my music, and journaled. And I have been burnt out for a little bit of time. I feel I remember looking at my vision board and just feeling so discouraged, I haven't accomplished anything that is on my vision board. And I'm it's only January 17th, what are you complaining about right now? And I feel I'm the kind of person who puts so much on their plate. I feel I've done so much, but I still feel I've accomplished a little bit of nothing, which is such a discouraging feeling to feel. And I think a lot of the times we often downplay the things that we have accomplished or the things that we have achieved, and we minimize our own accomplishments, making it feel in retrospect we've done nothing. I don't know where the thumbs up came from, but feeling in retrospect we have done nothing. And I also feel I was trying to look into imposter syndrome and what exactly is imposter syndrome. And I know it's when you feel you are a fraud in some way, and you feel the fear of people going to discover you and figure you out, and really essentially discrediting everything you do. Imposter syndrome being not someone is impersonating you, but it's not really you doing you're not really giving yourself credit. It's not really you doing the work, and it's really emphasized on negative thinking and negative self-thought. And I realized that has been a very prominent thing, and I think it's really hard when you have a lot of negative thoughts that you choose to listen to. I think negative thinking is a choice. I do think it's very hard to stop yourself from thinking so many negative things and believing so many negative things. And it's really hard to walk into a way of positive self-thought, which is why I journal a lot, because I think it's very, easy to be overwhelmed in thought, easy to be overwhelmed in emotion. Why I podcast, because I feel it's hard to get a grip and understanding of your emotions. And I feel it's been a really hard thing for me, because for some reason, I have been, and I don't know, I literally just called my friend and asked if this was if they felt this, but I feel sometimes, and it's really hard to explain, but I feel I'm in the same position I once was. I feel the same things I used to feel. I don't know how to explain it. So I'm going to give you guys an example. Earlier today I was laying in my room, and I had my blinds open. Obviously you can see a blind is up, and I had the light peering in, and I never am really I never really have time to be in my room anymore. I'm always working, I'm always out, I'm always at the gym, I'm always busy. The only time I'm really in my room is to go to sleep. So listening to my music, having my blinds peering through reminded me of an exact period of time in my life 2 years ago. And I started feeling those same feelings and emotions and thoughts that I felt 2 years ago. And I thought that was really weird, because I have been experiencing that very so often. I can be driving and I'm listening to a song, and I feel the same thing that I felt when I first listened to the song. Or I don't know, I feel overwhelmed with those emotions that I felt so long ago. And my friend was oh, maybe those are just unresolved emotions. But I'm I feel everything in my life has been resolved. And it's really hard to, think that the feelings are unresolved when that's so much that I feel I have healed from in my life. I feel there's so much that I have worked to heal from that I refuse to think parts of me are still broken. I don't think you're ever going to be fully healed. I don't think you're never going to not have flare-ups or times where you feel the same things you used to feel, but I just would hate to, in the back of my mind, discredit all the things that I've worked to accomplish within myself. I don't know why I have felt so overwhelmed in just emotion, in thought, in anything, and I don't know where it came from, because I promise you 2 weeks ago I was perfectly fine. Everything was great. Really didn't have a single thought in the world. I recently had a dream about someone that I don't speak to. I do not talk to them. And that person has been on my mind for weeks now. And I'm like, that is so weird that I have not been thinking about you. I have not been concerned. I have not been worried. I have not been like interested or anything. And like now that's just like a very prominent thought that I feel like I cannot let loose. And it's been like, do I say something or do I like shut up? Like, do I like let it go? And I feel like there's so many things that I thought I let go and like moved on from that I don't think I fully have let go and moved on from. It's really hard when you feel like so much time has passed in your life that you can never go revisit an old situation or revisit an old feeling because you want to move forward. But I think sometimes it's necessary to go back so you can heal from what you didn't heal from in order to go forward. I don't know. I feel like I've been struggling a lot with just like understanding my own emotions and like being able to sit with my own emotions because like I feel like I've always been on go and I feel like I haven't been able to rest and I feel like I've just been like really like doing a lot of things, and if I'm there's no like in between, like if I'm doing nothing, I'm genuinely doing nothing, like just bed rotting. I feel like I've like kind of pushed past a lot of my hobbies and like a lot of the things that I feel make me feel like myself, because why, I really don't know. Like I thought I had a reason. I don't understand like where some of these things and these feelings come from, and I hope like talking about it helps me pinpoint like the issue of my struggle. I do think like when you are feeling things like this and like if this does like resonate and like you relate to just all of a sudden like having like overwhelming and immense emotions, like journaling has been such a big outlet for me. I used to really like rely on music, and I do rely on music like a lot. Headphones have been in my ears like 24/7, but I feel like it's very easy to, when you're sad, listen to sad music. When you're happy, listen to music that makes you happy. But I feel like when you're sad and you're listening to music that makes you feel even more sad, you're just wallowing in sadness and you're basking in these deep, deep emotions and these deep thoughts. And I feel like it only encourages like more negative thoughts and more like feelings of sadness, and just like it's very easy to be comfortable in that. Like when you are sad, sometimes sadness can be a very comforting thing. I think crying and everything and like being sad can be very therapeutic because it reminds you that you do have emotions and you are in touch with those emotions. You can feel things. I never think there's anything wrong with like, you know, being sad and like crying and everything. It's very important to, you know, go through those courses of your life, but I think wallowing in it is what makes the idea of getting out of those feelings feel so challenging and difficult. I feel like it makes it feel so much harder to pull yourself out of what feels like something so negative when you're just wallowing in it. So I don't know, I've been journaling a lot more. You don't journal just when you're happy. You don't journal just when you're sad. I think it's important to journal when you're happy too. I do like to reread the things in my journal. My journal dates back from 2020 because that's when I started journaling. So I do like to look at how far like I've progressed. Not every day you're gonna feel encompassed in all of these like dark thoughts and negative thoughts. Negative thinking, I think, hits you when you least expect it. And like when you're not really taking time for yourself, it's really easy to just feel worn out and like unaccomplished sometimes. Like it's really, burnout is so inevitable, and we don't realize like the burnout only fuels into worser feelings. Like when you feel burnt out, you feel like the only thing you can do is like rot, and when you feel like you're rotting, you feel guilty for rotting. Like I don't know if everybody feels bad for when they rest, but sometimes I do feel bad for my rest days, and I feel like I could be doing something so much more productive. And then I feel like in the days where I want to be productive, I do not feel motivated enough to be as productive as I could have been. I feel like we're always backtracking on the things that we do and always downplaying the things that we've accomplished. And I think that's such an unfair thing to ourselves, because I sat in my car and I just drove around and I just like listened to my Lauryn Hill, and I felt like so many things like arise in myself that I didn't even know that I was feeling. Like having a tie and an understanding of your emotions, I think, will always be the most challenging thing, because sometimes you just don't know where it comes from. It just bubbles up. I think it's important to take time for yourself, and your mental health days are very important, and to prioritize like rest days, because then you're just going to have moments where like you sit with yourself and you just feel like, I don't want to say bad because these aren't consistent feelings, but where you just feel not so great. I don't know. In a world where everything just isn't sunshines and rainbows, like it's kind of real life. Like not everything is going to be sunshines and rainbows. I feel like I'm never one to like claim depression, and I'm never one to say like I am depressed. I have always felt like I have dealt with symptoms of depression from like younger ages, And it's been a really, really long time. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a really long time since I have felt like burnt out. It's really, really long time since I have felt less like myself. It's been a really long time since I have been up late, just like heavily in thought and like heavily like trying to distract myself in my mind. And for me, I'm really big on like, speak on how you feel, speak on your emotions, talk about your feelings, talk about the things that upset you, be open, be vulnerable, do all of those things. I've recorded so many podcast episodes, and the reason why I felt like they just were not good enough is because they were so in tune with my emotions, and they felt so vulnerable that I felt like that made it seem like I was sad and depressed and like emo. And I didn't feel like I wanted to give those vibes, but literally that is life. The reality of living is that some days just are not going to be your best days. And like these past couple of like these 2 weeks have not felt like my best 2 weeks. Like, I feel like I have felt better about myself and just have been more confident about the things that I'm doing and more self-assured in general. And I feel like those feelings have not been felt in some time. I don't think this is meant to be like an episode of where we just wallow, but it's just an episode of like feeling like it's okay to feel your feelings, and it's okay to not feel okay. You don't have to like push past every single thing. I'm really big on like trying to distract my mind and trying to do things to where I'm just not so stuck in one spot, and like I want to go places where my mind is being stimulated, because I had felt the same redundancy of my life and just feeling like pattern and pattern and pattern and pattern, that it made me feel like I was just a dull person, and like I was just dwelling in dullness. And I don't think that's the case. I think it's just like really hard not to set time aside for yourself, but it's really hard to be able to set time aside for yourself to understand yourself and what you're feeling or what you're going through and how to navigate best through that. I know I mentioned journaling a lot, and I know sometimes journaling may not be like everybody's go-to. I'm very big on just like recording a vlog and like setting it up and talking to myself. Podcasting is so therapeutic because I just sit in my room and talk to myself. Like, if that's all I knew ever how to do, and like if I could get an award in talking to myself, I feel like that I would be like number one yapper. That would be my award. I feel like I would win that hands down. Like, that would go to me. Aside, I don't know, like, what are other things that other people do? What are things that I do? I don't know. Oh, I used to bake a lot when I was younger. I used to like really like be just like in my room all the time. Like, I would sit in darkness and I would just be very like emo. And I remember like my mom telling me like, we need to like find you some hobbies. When you do not have hobbies, I feel like that's also a way that your brain is not being stimulated. Because when your brain is not being stimulated, I feel like the only default is to just think to just be so deep into thought. Like, you're not really stimulating your mind, so the only thing you can do is think. Like, you're not really giving your brain anything else to do but spiral and spiral and spiral and spiral. Like, I feel like hobbies are so important. So I got into baking, and I literally will bake if I feel like dull, and like, let me do something with myself. Like, let me do something that makes me feel good. I started my new book. Like, I don't know, I've been trying to like not discredit myself so much, and I have been trying to give myself pats on the back for the things that I've accomplished, because like I said, very easy for your brain to trick you and tell you like you're not doing anything despite doing so much. Having 3 jobs and like not really like resting and like relaxing and like prioritizing myself has been like a pain in my behind, because it's also been working through jobs, doing school, trying to find time to podcast, trying to find time to have a social life, and just like really negating away from like my state of mind and like my mental health. Because I don't know, I've always thought mental health is such an important thing, and mental health truly does matter to me in the most ways that it ever possibly could. I think those things are so important, and I feel like I've kind of like not failed myself, but like not standing as firm into like what I believe in by not prioritizing that for myself. It's been a lot of like, oh, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, whatever. And it's not really like, when you're not sitting with yourself and taking the time to understand how you feel and what you're going through, you're just pushing it past to deal with it at a later point in time. Like, I don't know, it's like when you procrastinate and everything piles up at once and you have to deal with that. It's the same way with your feelings. Procrastination is not just an error in living and like the way that you're doing things that need to get done in like a more work applicable like sense and like school sense, but it's also like with your life. Stop playing with yourself. Like, you really do have to prioritize yourself in the ways that, can work for you and can help and aid you. And I don't know, I think like one, I feel a lot better. I really do feel a lot better talking about it because I have not talked about it, and I felt like talking about it on a podcast would really make my podcast episode seem depressing. But I feel so much better just being like, sometimes I just feel like overwhelmed in my emotions, and I don't understand where the emotions come from, but I just feel the emotions. Does that make sense? But it's like I said, not everything is going to be sunshines and rainbows. Like, life is not always going to be, you're superb, you're doing great, everything is amazing, and everything is immaculate. Like, hello, that's not life. And it's not. I don't know why we have the expectation that life is just supposed to never hit us with hardships, and like mental hardships just do not occur and emotional hardships just do not occur. But that is such an unrealistic standard to think that your life is forever going to be perfect and everything is going to be perfect and great for you. I never, ever, ever claim things that I just don't want to claim them. I think like the things that I'm experiencing and feeling are very like normal, and I think anybody to experience them, it is a very normal thing. But I think like how you go about the situation and how you navigate throughout your feelings is what determines exactly like if this is going to be a long lasting and permanent feeling, or if you're going to take charge and take hold of what you can take charge and take hold of. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to shine light on that, and I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted someone to feel less alone in the fact that, you know, not everything is going to be perfect in their life, and not everything is going to feel perfect. And some days you're going to wake up feeling like the baddest biddy in the world, and some days you're just going to wake up like staring at yourself with a blank face like, whoa. And both feelings are very real. It's very normal, and it's very okay. And yeah, and that's it. I love you guys so much. I will see you next week. Be sure to follow my podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure I think there's like a button and you can press like follow this podcast or like add this podcast, and like be sure you press the button to where you get notified when I drop a new episode. You guys can follow me on Instagram. My podcast account is at the Divine Cupid. My main account is at India Watson. My TikTok account is also at the Divine Cupid, and my YouTube channel is at the Divine Cupid. Be sure you subscribe. I post literally all of my content on all the same platforms. So even if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. Follow my Instagrams. I love you guys so much. I will be uploading more soon, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.